So we pick up from where we left. We ended with Charles Lyell, and we said that Charles Lyell agreed with Huxley and Darwin in saying that the human person evolved from lower forms of life. But he disagreed also at the same time in terms of the process. Ingon siya, if you look at the process, he is not able to explain the uniqueness of man from the other animals unless you accept that there was a break in the progression. There was a break in the process. Charles Lyell would say when the human being emerged, there was a sudden leap forward. There was a sudden leap forward. There was an exertion of creative power. Ikatulo na tong hisgutan in terms of anthropology as an effect of evolution is Charles Darwin himself. He published his anthropology in the book The Descent of Man, published in 1871. And he says this is the product of 33 years of reflection and data gathering. So, dili ni ingog ginama lang human sa pipila ka minuto nga pagpamalandong. It is a product of 33 years nga data gathering. His anthropology had two basic elements. The first is, like the other evolutionists, he insists that the human person had evolved from lower forms of animals. So, the human being is not created uniquely and separately from other species. Gamit siya daghang ebidensya ani, scientific evidence from anatomy and embryology. Ikaduha, he believed that human evolution from lower forms was determined by natural means. So ang atong pagkahulma, human ang taas nga proseso sa kinaiyahan, ang atong pagtumaw, ang atong paglutaw, isiptaw, lahi sa ubang mananap, wala gyud hilabti o creative power. Walay nang hilabot nga Ginoo, walay nang hilabot nga supernatural influence. It was all determined by natural means. The human being emerged in the biological process as a product of the struggle for survival. When he was exposed to the struggle for survival, the human being developed certain features and characteristics. So kining atong mga characteristics nga dili pareha sa mananap, na-develop ra gyud siya sa kinaiyahan sa paglabay sa panahon. Ang atong barog, that our body structure is erect, more erect than apes and monkeys. Our intellectual faculties, ang atong kapasidad nga mo pinsar, mo hunahuna, our ability to speak and write, our emotions, our aesthetic tastes, our social habits, our moral sense, all these came about, all these were perfected and advanced. All these were developed by means of natural selection. Okay. So, again, mabalik sa pangunahuna nga, there is no fundamental difference between human beings and animals. There's a difference in degree, but not in kind, not of kind. Okay, mayon man siya nga, kanang mananap, they also communicate with each other. Di ba? Bisa kita, makabantay ta, ang mananap, magkasinabot man sila, nasa lay paagi nga, maka-communicate sila sa usag-usa. Panlitan nganong makahibaw man ka nga ang iro, nganong makahibaw man ang mga iro nga naay babae nga iro sa unahan nga nanguwag, no? So there is a way by which they communicate with each other. They also enjoy excitement. They imitate each other. They use reasoning powers, ningon si Charles Darwin. Pero mas ubos lang sila sa tuwa. So the difference is in degree but not in kind. Darwin would say, can we be certain that dogs cannot reflect on his past? Is not a dog's love, submission, and fear of his master remotely similar to human religiosity? Many animals, in fact, he would say, have a taste for beauty, especially during the mating season. So kanang atong proclivity toward what is beautiful, kanang ato ang sense of loyalty, imo man na makitaan sa mga mananap. Pero mas refined lang ang sa tao, mas developed lang ang sa tao. Kunya, mingon si Charles Darwin nga ang pinaka-notable, significant nga human attribute mao ang gitawag niya og moral sense. Kanang atong gitawag og sense of morality. Unsa man ang sense of morality? Kanang atong notion of right and wrong. Mao nga naghimo pod siya og theory kung giunsa nato pag-develop anang sense of right and wrong. Anong kaybaw man ta nga kining butanga daotan, kining butanga maayo, kining butanga buhaton nimo, kining butanga imong likayan. Where does it come from? If we are not created by God, if we are not designed by God, if we are just a product of a long journey of evolutionary process, then where does our moral sense come from? Darwin has a 4-point theory. You can also find this in the slides. Mingon si Darwin, no? Again, this is his way of explaining how did we develop a sense of right and wrong. Mingon si Charles Darwin nga una, we have instinct. And by reason of our instinct, we are social animals. Meaning we belong to a group. We have a natural love and affection for our family. So apil na sa atong instinct that we are able to socialize, and that within our social circle, we have natural affection for them. Okay. Ikaduha, yung siya, by reason of our mental capacities, we can remember our motives and actions. Tungod kay naatay highly developed mental capacity, makahinumdum ta o makakumpara ta sa atong mga motivations and actions. Kunya, in the process, we develop a standard of what is acceptable or not. And our capacity to compare would lead to a sense of responsibility, shame, and happiness. Masalaing pagkasulti, tungod kay natay abilidad nga mahinumdom, ug natay abilidad nga mahibaw unsay atong motivation, makakompare ta pinasubay sa atong kasinatian. Nga panalitan, nangihi ka dito tunga-tunga sa karsada, unya gipadlong ka sa mga tao, ayo panghide sa tunga. That ability to remember and the ability to compare motives and actions, and the capacity to remember what people say about what you did, will help you develop a standard. Kini acceptable, kini dili. Kung mangihi ko dili sa tunga sa kalsada, kinahanglan ato daplin sa suok nga walay makakita. Okay? So So these mental capacities which allow us to remember and compare uh, lead us to develop a standard of what is right and wrong, of what is acceptable or not acceptable. And third, we have the capacity for speech. Makamaot nga musulti. Ug tungod kay makamaot nga musulti, maka-communicate ta sa atong standard ngadto sa ubang miyembro sa community. Tungod kay maka-sulti man ta, makabadlong ta sa uban nga, "Hoy, ayaw na buhata. Hoy, kani may imong himuon." Because of our capacity to speak, we are able to communicate our own standard of right and wrong to other members of the community. And finally, he says, there is habit. Habit, the constant way or the constant doing of one thing, the formation of habits because of constant doing, constant repetition, it strengthens and perpetuates the communal norms of conduct. Tungod kay ato ng kanunay gibuhat, it becomes perpetuated, magpabilin o mapalig-on diya sa atong katilingban nga gipuy-an. So, mo na iyang paagi sa pag-explain sa atong moral sense. Again, mingon siya nga, kanang atong moral sense does not come from God or someone who is supernatural and imposed on us. No, it's also part of the process of evolution. His notion of evolution also had an impact on his view of the future. Because of evolution, he developed a very positive outlook about what is going to happen. Kaya para ni Darwin, ang evolution is a process that is unidirectional and unilinear. Buti pasabot nga, kining maong proseso sa pag-evolve, nagtubo ra gyud pataas, unidirectional pataas, unilinear, tulid. So, ang mga butang, ang organism, species, they are growing with only one direction. And that is to becoming better. So as evolution progresses, we can expect that we become better in all dimensions of our lives. As human beings evolve, our attributes, all our attributes will continue to develop. Our bodily attribute, our intellectual, emotional, and moral characteristics will continue to become better. He would say, at the end, virtue will be triumphant. People can only get better, more beautiful, more talented, and more virtuous. So positibo kaayo ang iyang tanaw sa kaugmaon sa tao. So panalitan, kung si Gerald Magminyo, kanang anak ni Gerald, mas gwapo gyud na niya. Kanang iyang apo, mas gwapo kaysa iyang anak, and so on and so forth. Dili lang kay mas gwapo, mas bright, mas buutan, mas refined sa tanang dimension sa iyang kinabuhi, if you are to follow the theory of Charles Darwin. And just quickly, Alfred Russel Wallace. Kini si Alfred Russel Wallace is also an evolutionist. He discovered the principle of evolution independently of Darwin. So wala sila magsabot, wala sila magistorya. Again, he accepted the notion that the human being evolved from lower forms through natural selection. And he rejected the idea that our capacities evolved naturally from lower animals. Ningon siya nga, parehan ni siya ni Charles Lyell. Ningon siya nga, anay mga butang sa atong pagkatao nga dili ma-explain by way of evolution. Ningon siya, in the course of human evolution, if special features develop as a tool for survival, how can we say that music, art, mathematics, or metaphysics are reasons for survival. Nga sa ato pa, kining atong kapasidad for music, for art, our delight for beauty, must have come from another origin. And he calls it the unseen universe of spirit. So pareha ni, similar ni Charles Lyell nga, kanang naay intervention, naay exertion of creative power. But in Wallace, he calls it the unseen universe of spirit, an ambiguous and obscure religious category. Hindi po siya maingon nga Ginoo. So he would say there is another origin that explains the uniqueness of the human person. So si Huxley ug si Darwin, ug imong i-summarize ni, si Huxley ug si Darwin maingon nga human person differs from animals only in terms of degree but not in kind, and there was no break in the whole process of evolution. Pero kato si Charles Lyell ug si Alfred Russel Wallace, maingon sila, yes, we believe in evolution, but the uniqueness and the superiority of the human person must come from something that transcends or that goes beyond animal existence and evolution. There must be an intervention by some creative power. I'd like to, there are other things that you can read. Please refer to the book and the pages that we are focusing on. But as a concluding note on Darwin, mingon ta nga, Darwin effectively challenged and shattered even our old worldview. According to the book, he robbed God, iyang giilugan ng Ginoo sa iyang papel isip magbubuhat. He robbed God of his role of creator and man of his divine origin. Pero kung mangutana ka, unsang po epekto ni Darwin nga positibo diha sa atong pagtuo? What is his positive effect on biblical religion? Matod sa atong textbook, Darwin's rejection of the Bible helped confirm the findings of biblical scholars before him. What are the findings of biblical scholars? That the purpose of biblical literature is not to give us a historical information. Kana ding maong panghunahuna diha nang daan sa iyang mga contemporaries and after him who were studying the Bible. They were arguing that we do not interpret the Bible literally, because the point of the Bible is not to give us historical and even scientific information. The purpose of the Bible is to establish and nurture our relationship with God. So anang dapita makaingon ta nga murag nag-support si Darwin hinuon sa nagsugod nga consciousness about the nature of the Bible. So when we ask, did Darwin really destroy religion? According to our textbook, there is an irony here, because one could say that he, in fact, despite the challenges he posed on religion, he in fact contributed to the maturity and development of biblical faith. So with that, we end Darwin, and we will we will respond to Darwin using the philosophy of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.